Welcome to SST June. Students, today we are going to start our fourth chapter, which is distribution of oceans and continents. In the last chapter, we have already studied about the interior structure of the earth. You all know about the world map, how the earth is looking nowadays. You know that continents cover 29% of the surface of the earth, and the remainder is under oceanic waters. The positions of the continents and the ocean bodies, as we see them in the map, have not been the same in the past. About 250 million years ago, long after the earth had formed, all the continents of the time had joined together to form a supercontinent called Pangaea. This supercontinent broke up about 200 million years ago to form two giant continents, Gondwana and Laurasia. Roughly 750 million years ago, the earliest known supercontinent, Rodinia, began to break apart. The continents later recombined to form Pannonia. 600 to 540 million years ago. Then finally Pangaea, which broke apart 200 million years ago. The present pattern of Ice Age began about 40 million years ago, then intensified at the end of the Pliocene. The polar regions have since undergone repeated cycle of glaciation, repeating every 40,000 to 1 lakh years. The last glacial period of the current ice age ended about 10,000 years ago. You may wonder as to how scientists know this. How have they determined their earlier positions? You will find the answers to some of these and related questions in this chapter. This chapter is divided into three major parts. The first part is the drift theory, in which we will see the continental drift, the evidence in support of the continental drift, force for drifting, post drift studies, in which we will know about Wagner's theories about the drift, the matching of continents, jigsaw fit, rocks of same age across the oceans, delights, placer deposits, distribution of fossils, convectional current theory, and mapping of the ocean floor. Our next major topic will be ocean floor configuration, in which we will study about the distribution of earthquakes and volcanoes, concept of sea floor spreading, and many more. Our third major topic is plate tectonics, in which we will study about the introduction of plate tectonics, the divergent boundaries, convergent boundaries, transform boundaries, rates of plate movement, force for the plate movement, and movement of the Indian plate. So students, today we will see our first major topic, which is drift Theories. The continental drift theory by Wagner assumed all the present continents to have risen by the breaking and then drifting of the components of the supercontinent Pangaea. Continental drift was a theory that explained how continents shift position on Earth's surface. Abraham Ortelius, a Dutch mapmaker, 1596, first proposed the possibilities of joining the continents such as America with Europe and Africa. Antonio Pellegrini drew the map showing the three continents together. Alfred Wegener, a German meteorologist, put forth the continental drift theory. According to him, all continents formed a single continental mass called Pangaea. All oceans formed a single universal ocean called Panthalassa, which means all around water or mega ocean. Around 200 Maya, the Pangaea began to split into two large masses called Laurasia and Gondwana land. By further splitting, Laurasia formed northern continents and Gondwana land formed southern continent. The continents had two directions of drift. First, towards the equator, second, towards the west. The movement towards the equator is considered to be caused by the relation of the forces of gravitation. The center of gravity and the center of buoyancy exist in such a position that the continents begin to drift towards the equator. The movement towards west is ascribed to the tidal forces of the sun and the moon affecting the earth. The drift in these ways caused the redistribution of continents and ocean bases, resulting in the present form and shape of the earth. According to Wagner, the drift has not come to a stop, but it's still continuing. Initially, this theory was not acceptable to many scientists. However, now it has been established by the theory of plate tectonics that continents are moving as plates on a semi liquid surface. This has led to the support to the theory of continental drift. So, the question is there, if the present form of Earth formed by the continental drift, which is based on the Wagner's theory, so what are the evidence to support that? So, here is our next subtopic. It is evidence to support the continental drift. So, first evidence is the matching of continents, or we call jigsaw fit. As you can see in this picture, the shoreline of South America and Africa have remarkable match. It was a map that produced by Bullard in 1964 to show the jigsaw fit of these two continents. It was fit around 1000 fathom lines of the shoreline. The Atlantis coast of Africa and South America appear to fit together neatly, like the pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. The second evidence is rocks of same age across the oceans. Wagner discovered that identical rocks could be found on both sides of the Atlantic Ocean. These rocks were the same type and the same age. Wagner understood that the rocks had formed side by side and that the land has since moved apart. The belt of ancient rocks of 2000 million years from Brazil coast matches with those from Western Africa. The earliest marine deposits along the coastline of South America and Africa are of the Jurassic Age, but that are now on opposite side of the Atlantic Ocean. The Appalachians of the eastern United States and Canada, for example, are just like mountain ranges in eastern Greenland, Ireland, Great Britain, and Norway. Wagner concluded that they formed as a single mountain range that was separated as the continents drifted. The next proof of the continental drifts is delight. It is the sedimentary rock formed out of deposits of glaciers. At the base, the system has thick delight, indicating extensive and prolonged glaciations. Sediments from India have similar counterparts at different continents of South. The same glaciations is found in Africa, Falklands, Madagascar, Antarctica, and Australia. The glacial delight indicates that unambiguous evidence of paleoclimates and drifting of continents. If we will see the next evidence of continental drift, it is placer deposits. In geology, a placer deposit or placer is an accumulation of valuable minerals formed by gravity separation during sedimentary processes. Formation of placer deposits of gold in Ghana coast has no source rock. The gold bearing veins of rocks are found in Brazil and make it obvious that the gold deposit of Ghana are derived from Brazil. Next is distribution of fossils. Fossils are the preserved traces of animals or plants found inside the rock. They are useful in dating geological material because they indicate which species were alive at the time the rock was formed. Identical species of animals and plants are found along the coastal regions of the different continents. As Lemuria, the observation that lemurs occurs in India, Madagascar, and Africa led some to consider a contiguous landmass Lemuria linking these three landmasses. Second is Mesosaurus. Mesosaurus was a small reptile adapted to shallow brackish water. So it is a question, what were the forces which responsible for drifting the continents? Wagner suggested that the movement responsible for the drifting of the continents was caused by polar fleeing force or tidal force. The polar fleeing force related to the rotation of the earth. This bulk is due to the rotation of the earth, and the tidal force is due to the attraction of the moon and the sun that develops tides in oceanic waters. It arises because the gravitational force extracted by one body on another is not constant across it. The nearest side is attracted more strongly than the furthest side. Possible driving forces for plate tectonics: bottom lithosphere tectonics by convection currents. Second, rollback. Third, global expanding or contracting forces. Next, trench pull. Next, ridge push, sliding of a high crust in compression. And the next is membrane force on spinning ellipsoid. After the continental drift theories, new studies came, which were known as post-drift studies. Information collected from the ocean mapping is more useful to study the continental drift. In support of post-drift theories, the convectional current theory was proposed by Arthur Holmes in 1930. Due to differences in the temperature, currents are formed due to disintegration of radioactive materials inside the earth. Convection currents in the magma drive plate tectonics. Heat generated from the radioactive decay of elements deep in the interior of the earth creates magma or molten rock. In the asthenosphere, the asthenosphere is part of the mantle, the mantle sphere of the earth that extend to 2,900 kilometers. And these currents are found entire mantle portion. The second theory in support of post studies is mapping ocean floor. The surface area of the earth as a whole is dominated by the ocean basin as part of a continuous worldwide process. New ocean crust from at ocean ridge and is destroyed in the deep ocean trenches. Despite its dominance, the ocean floor is largely unexplored and unmapped. So, how the ocean floor configured, we will know in our next video. Hope you understood this part of the chapter. So, to know more about this chapter, keep watching SST 2.